think the biggest misconception is that it's just a bunch of tools and I just have to do these little things and check the boxes and be done. It's not. I mean, yes, mastering the tools that we teach is definitely important, but it's about vision, traction, and healthy. Greater good of the business is not all hugging and kissing. Greater good of the business is sometimes we have to have tough conversations and they need to believe in your core focus and where you're going and where you're headed. Not everybody wants to work at the same pace. So what pace do you want to work at? If you want to walk and run fast, go, run. But not everybody wants to run. Some people want to walk. Some people want to jog, right?
Meet CJ Dubé. CJ is an expert EOS implementer, serial entrepreneur, and former global community leader at EOS Worldwide. With more than 35 years of business and leadership experience, CJ's superpower lies in guiding leaders to cut through complexity, embrace accountability, and intentionally design their culture and their companies that they need to thrive.
My personal core focus is I love to ignite leaders, managers, owners to do the thing you keep putting off. And my superpower, as I call it, is motivation, or i.e. kicking people in the ass. And yep, I say it just like that. I always had this feeling that I was worried about what people thought about me. If I say this or do this, what are they going to think about me? I love you all out there, but I don't care anymore. I am here to serve. I'm here to do great work. And someone can tell me right to my face, I didn't like that. I don't think that was right. I think you said that wrong. I'm all in.
We are here today because business leaders everywhere are searching for freedom. Freedom from the chaos of daily firefighting, freedom from feeling stuck, and freedom to grow their companies with clarity and confidence. The big problem is so many founders and executives know where they want to go, but they're frustrated by the lack of alignment, unclear accountability, or a culture that doesn't match their vision. The desire is simple. Build an intentional business where your people thrive, teams execute, and leaders have space to lead. Meet CJ Dubé. CJ is an expert EOS implementer, serial entrepreneur, and former global community leader at EOS Worldwide. With more than 35 years of business and leadership experience, she has co-founded multiple companies, led teams through complex growth, and facilitated over 1,000 sessions with leadership teams across industries. She's also the co-author of People, Dare to Build an Intentional Culture, and a sought-after speaker who has shaped the global community. CJ's superpower lies in guiding leaders to cut through complexity, embrace accountability, and intentionally design their culture and their companies that they need to thrive. Here's the challenge for you. If you're leading a business or running it, or it's running you, what would you change if you had a clear system, the right people in the right seats, and a culture that fuels performance instead of draining it? Imagine this. Imagine a future where your leadership team is rowing in the same direction, where culture is your competitive advantage, and where you as the leader finally experience the freedom to focus on the work and life you love. That's what CJ is here to help you unlock. CJ, welcome to the Built on Purpose podcast.
Thank you, Max. Thank you so much for that great intro.
Oh, you got it. So good to see you. CJ is my implementer, so it's so nice to have her on the show. I was looking forward to this time. Let's start with an easy question. For those people that don't know what EOS is and they're running a business, talk about what the role of an implementer is.
Sure. So EOS, first of all, Entrepreneurial Operating System, is a business management system made up of 6 key components, which we can talk more about here in a little bit. But it's meant to help you get real, simple results. And as an implementer, I'm a coach. It's kind of the simple way to say it, but I'm a teacher, I'm a facilitator, and a coach. I'm there to teach the EOS tools in the context of any business. Whatever the business is, I teach those tools. I'm there to facilitate what's happening in the room, because there's lots of things happening in a room. And then I'm there to be your coach, to help, just like any great coach. If you think of a golf coach, which Max, you and I both have had golf coaches over the years, and he says, I'm going back too far on my swing. I'm like, no, I don't. Then he videos me and he goes, yeah, you are. And I go, okay, yeah. So that's my golf coach. I'm the same way. You don't always see what I see as a coach in the room, and I'm there to help you and coach you and be your accountability partner.
I love that. And all is true. She does it in such a loving but direct way. So I look forward to talking more about that. You built and co-founded multiple businesses. Talk about, what's one lesson from your entrepreneurial journey that still shapes how you lead today as an implementer?
Well, all of my experiences, one extremely successful with 2 partners, and one that was a baby business that quite honestly cost me a lot of money. And so at the end of the day, it has always boiled around people and making sure that you have the right partners as well as the right leadership team of people, team throughout an organization, whether you have 40 employees or whether you have 500 employees. I believe it boils down to people, discipline, accountability, and that they all believe strongly in your values and are ready and willing and wanting to march in the same direction as you.
I love it. When you look back, what was the toughest leadership challenge you faced and how did it change you?
I think the toughest challenge I had, now, Max, you know this, but audience, I spent most of my career prior to being an implementer for the last 15 years in the placement industry. So a lot of what I was doing was playing matchmaker, right? That's the simplest way to say it, is finding really good candidates to fit really good roles and helping people understand that what do you really want? What do you really need? And, at moments, this is what you have to pay for that. And not everyone likes it. So there's more than one tough conversation I've had on both educating as well as helping people understand what I was doing and how I was trying to help them. And then you just have people that are stubborn. And so then you end up like this a little bit.
Yeah. And we've, like I said, I've seen this. And by the way, how I was introduced to CJ is I was talking to one of our clients and they were telling me about how awesome their implementer was. And then I asked what industry did she work in prior to becoming an implementer? And they said in the recruiting or placement business. So that got me down the breadcrumb of finding her. So she was like perfect. She understands the recruiting business just enough. But I think as an implementer, what's so important to your point is being a coach and being in the room. And I admire how great implementers, obviously including you, kind of let it get figured out without like really telling them the answer. Right. They kind of let it. I mean, that's the essence of coaching is like, you got to figure it out. So I think you do a wonderful job at that. As a serial entrepreneur, how do you know when it's time to pivot, double down, or let go of something? You've had one business that was super successful and you had one that wasn't. Like what do you use maybe those examples that might help the audience?
Yeah, so data. The thing that I had to learn how to do better is the numbers always tell us a story, right? So what are those numbers telling us? And there's been times where I've hung on to a salesperson, for example, and they're not hitting the numbers. And I know it, and I don't think they're going to make it, but I keep waiting and waiting and waiting and think they'll catch on. But even as a business as a whole, those numbers tell us a story, and we need to be able to be brave enough, courageous enough to dig deep to uncover the root issue. Whether that root issue is, you can't just say it's economy. That doesn't really work, in my humble opinion. So how do we tweak? How do we pivot? How do we make sure that we're doing the right things? But pay attention to those numbers because they're the real story. And then the faster you can pivot on that, the better it'll be for the future. And that's hard conversations, tough decisions. And I mean, I've been in business, and so I've been through multiple recessions, multiple downturns, and multiple upturns. And you've got to be able to navigate that. And that's not always easy. So pay attention to your numbers.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I find myself telling people, and we might have had this discussion before, especially when it comes to salespeople, but just in general, it's like the best you're generally going to see most of the time, 90-something% of the time, is the first 90 days. Like if you're waiting for somebody to turn the corner after that, like you're just kidding yourself. Like they're going to show up and give you the best they got the first 90 days, unless, there's some weird thing, like maybe they're sick or something. But I find myself asking people the question is like, you think it's going to change? You think that they're going to all of a sudden just say, all right, I'm going to give them this reserve effort that I've had that I didn't want to show them the first 90 days? What is your response to that?
Well, okay, so a couple things on that point. As you know, with EOS, we call it GWC, get it, want it, capacity, right? And the GWC changes over time. So you have to ask yourself, is this person that I'm hiring? If I'm hiring someone and I know it's going to take me a year to get them up and running, and quite honestly, in sales, there are times it takes more than a year to get somebody into their full groove. So you have to be very conscious of that when you're hiring. What do you need? Do you need someone to hit the ground running and producing for you in the first 90 days, 6 months? Or are you intentionally helping them, and it's going to take a bit of time for them to get into that seat? But you have to be conscious of that yourself. And I'm a strong believer in gut, and I do that. I do all, you probably have the same motto, but it's like hire slow, fire fast. And what I mean by that is I don't mean time as much as I mean do all your due diligence, ask all your questions, spend a lot of time with the candidate that you want to hire. And then if they don't have the proof in the pudding right away, the work ethic, the core values, the things that you want them to have those first 90 days, then yeah, you need to just be done. But if you think they have the values, the work ethic, they're learning, they're growing, they're going to get there, then give them the more time. But be clear with them. Be crystal clear on your expectations. So whatever your expectations are, here's your 5 roles. These are the numbers we expect in the beginning. Whatever those expectations are, I just say be crystal clear, because then they can't be surprised when you say you're not hitting them. I'm sorry, this isn't working.
That might be a writer downer. Hang on, I'm going to write that down. Seriously. I think a lot of visionaries, that's what they do, is they think they have conversations, or they've had these conversations that they really haven't had. And I think CJ's probably coached me up on this a little bit. So I think that is something to note. For leaders hearing about EOS for the first time, which would be like, I don't know where they'd be hiding to not hear about EOS at this point, but there's some leaders out there that haven't heard of EOS. What's the biggest misconception you want to clear up?
I think the biggest misconception is that it's just a bunch of tools and I just have to do these little things and check the boxes and be done. It's not. I mean, yes, mastering the tools that we teach is definitely important, but it's about vision, traction, and healthy. So vision from the perspective of getting everyone 100% on the same page, moving in the same direction, not only where you're going, but how you're going to get there. And traction, as we know, is execution, results, making GSD, making things happen, right? Now, healthy actually is the hardest one of the 3. Healthy is about being a healthy, cohesive leadership team, all working together for the greater good of the business. Greater good of the business is not all hugging and kissing. Greater good of the business is sometimes we have to have tough conversations, and they need to believe in your core focus and where you're going and where you're headed. And if you're not connected as a leadership team 100% on where you're going and how you're going to get there, you're not healthy. And you're going to have a very hard time. It's going to feel like this boulder I'm pushing up the hill. It's hard to learn how to be open, honest, and vulnerable. And Max, you know this. Over the years that we've been working together, we've had people on your team that have come and gone. And that's real. That's just real. And so it's making sure that you have a healthy, cohesive leadership team on the same mission, at the same pace that you want to go. Not everybody wants to work at the same pace. So what pace do you want to work at? If you want to walk and run fast, go, run. But not everybody wants to run. Some people want to walk. Some people want to jog, right? So what's the pace of your team to make sure they want to go at the same pace you want to go as a visionary?
Yeah, wow. What a great answer. And on the hiring front, pace is always one of those things that, that people overlook, because the easiest example is always like the construction industry, just because you build something physically and you can have a COO at a construction company that can do all of the same things, but then you start to think about the complexity and the pace which they do it at. And if they're not used to either moving as fast as the company that you're hiring them into, or potentially moving as slow, they're going to have a terrible time, because there's a pace that they like to keep. So I always think that is super important on the hiring side to consider, because it can be missed if you don't ask the right questions. For example, on the construction side is, how many projects at one time are you guys dealing with at your old company versus the new company? But I always feel like that's kind of one of those things. I think they talk about it, actually, to give credit where credit's due, in The Who, Brad Smart's book. They talk about complexities and pace, or hiring talent. I'm sorry, I just want to give credit to whoever talks about it, but it is really important. It's something that's missed quite a bit. So you've led over 1,000 EOS sessions. What patterns?
Actually, 1,832 to be exact.
Okay. All right. Let's say I've got a few in there. What patterns do you most often see in leadership teams that are struggling?
I would say the majority of the time, it's back to that healthy, cohesive leadership team. It's not so much the learning of the tools. It's more about the right people in the room and being ready to be on that journey of because EOS is going to change. It's going to change you. There's so many dynamics around us just naturally that change a business. Then you add in EOS, and there's a discipline to EOS. There's an accountability to EOS. And when you get really crystal clear on expectations, You lose people because they realize, oh, I don't want to meet those expectations. And so the hardest part in any team, the reality is, the fact is this, and it's proven that, and it's not just me, it's all implementers, it's Gino, it's all of us. In a year's time, on any team I take on, I'm going to add a person or subtract a person from that team. And anytime you add one person that's different, it changes the dynamics of the team, or you exit a person and it changes the dynamics of the team. And it's shocking when you exit a person and all of a sudden this team comes together way better than they ever were before because that person left. And we may not like that, but it's fact. It's just what happens.
Yeah, well, we had the pleasure of having our last session where we added a couple new members, and that was fun and interesting for sure. It added some fireworks and sparks, and I'll say, to CJ's credit as an implementer, I remember at one point, this might be a little bit vulnerable, but like there was so much chaos in this room. Everybody's talking at the same time, and she had to take order. And if you know CJ, she is a powerhouse. She is like, this.
I yelled at them, everyone. I yelled at them.
She did. She took order. She took order fast, and everybody kind of sat up in their chair and was like, okay, we know who's running this meeting. So I think that always is, something that's necessary. This is going to be probably a hard one for you to answer, but I'm going to throw it at you anyway. If a company could only master one EOS tool to start, what should it be and why?
It is hard simply because I do believe strongly that all 6 key components tie together, first of all. But again, the statistics prove that 82% of concerns, problems, issues land in the people component. So getting the right people in the right seats is the number one thing, because then you can all get aligned together on what the vision is, because within the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer, there's those 8 questions, and you need to be aligned on what the answer is to those 8 questions. And if you don't have a leadership team that's aligned together on them, that's the hardest thing. So mastering right people, right seats is number one. But so one of the questions that I get asked, I need to hire this person or this seat or this. Should I wait to do EOS? And my answer always is no, because you're going to learn the tools and you're going to learn some tools around getting the right people in the right seats. And just going ahead and hiring, oftentimes there's still turnover. So let's get tools in place to make sure that we're looking at it and getting what's the right structure. I always say structure first, people second. And structures can change. They can change in 6 months, years, whatever it is, but structure first and people second. And I know this from my own personal experience when I was growing a business, HR contract consulting business with 2 partners, but I was hiring people. And there were times I found this person in the market and I loved this person and she was great and she was wonderful. But I didn't think structure first. And so I hire this person. And then as it turns out, they're not a good fit because she's not really doing what I want her to do or what I need her to do or what the business needs her to do. So I just encourage everyone to take your time, look down at your business and what is the right structure for your business. And then eyes wide open on culture too. What is the culture you have in your business today? And there's 4 quadrants of culture that I'm happy to share. If you want me to go there, Max?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the culture matrix is really talking about 4 different quadrants. And so it is happy accident. I'll share in a second. A chaotic culture, a command and control culture, and an intentional culture. So if you think about intentionality here and you think about healthy and you think of the 4 quadrants, so command and control absolutely is intentional. It's intentional because there's one leader or a leadership team that knows exactly what they want and how they want it. Now, and they're not afraid to go through a lot of people. They figure they'll always get more people. It's kind of the way they work. Quite honestly, generationally, most of our today's generation entering the workforce don't want to work that way. But those businesses still exist out there, for sure. And they are intentional. They're just not healthy because what happens is they have pockets and pockets of chaotic all over, toxicity everywhere. Okay, then you have what we call happy accident, which is bottom right. And happy accident is you start a business and you're super excited and you're super healthy because you've got your family in it and you got your best friend in it and you got cousin Fred in it and you got all these people and everyone's happy and having a great time and it grows until it flatlines. Because all of a sudden, for it to grow to the next level, I need to hire people in And wait a minute, I don't know if I'll like all the people I have to hire because I like these people. But then all of a sudden, those people that were your besties, family, friends, they're really not doing the job you need them to do either. So then you shift into chaotic culture. Okay. And I have a couple of companies that I've been working with in the last year, and I taught this to them, and they go, well, that's not us. A year later, yeah, I guess we were a happy accident. So, you go into chaotic culture, and that's where toxicity sits, right? There's chaoticness everywhere. Sometimes we all have a business that has maybe a little pocket of it, and we should work on it, but that's a chaotic culture. So it's not intentional and it's not healthy. Now, what we want to go is up and to the right. We want to have an intentional culture, and we want to be able to grow our business with the core values that we want, with the core focus that we want, with the vision, what's our long range goal that we want, all the things. We want to be intentional, and that takes work. But if you are laser focused on it, you can get there in about 18 months.
It only takes 18 months of hard work. That might be a little overwhelming for some people to hear. They're like, oh.
One day at a time, everyone. One day at a time. That's all it takes,
Absolutely. What's the hardest part of implementing EOS that leaders often underestimate?
People, because they realize I can do these tools and you can do the activities, but accountability really is what it is. I mean, they bring in an implementer for accountability, but then they realize that means all of you. That means everybody has to be accountable, and not everybody wants to be.
Yeah,
So
I have seen, and I'm sure you have seen probably even more. One of the founders wants to bring in EOS, and then the next thing you know, one of the founders is leaving, and they didn't anticipate that one of them would be leaving because it starts to shine a flashlight throughout the business.
And I've had many partners that have separated because they started implementing EOS and they actually didn't have the same vision. We're like, okay, we need to be 80% strong in everything we're doing. And so we have to get on the same page. And the reality is they brought in EOS, they think to save it. It doesn't save it.
It just shows what the reality is, and they got to get through that reality to move forward. Something that I'm super passionate about, as you know, and we are super passionate about at Yscouts, is we've done a lot of senior level hiring, and a lot has been around the second in command. And I think personally and selfishly, I love helping entrepreneurs get unstuck. And I don't think they really get unstuck until they have a good EA, like you got to get like the easy things to buy back their time. But then comes that integrator role, that second in command. Talk about the integrator role and how critical the integrator role is in the grand scheme of EOS and running on traction.
Sure. So the integrator role is the person who's ultimately harmoniously running the business on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. They are the glue of the business. But when you think of a visionary and your vision and your ideas, they are the one that's helping you execute on that vision, execute on those ideas, and they are your accountability partner. World grows better, faster with great visionaries, for sure, 100%. But even if you want to look at Walt Disney, that wouldn't be a business without his brother. His brother was with the bankers and holding all the little pieces together. And so every visionary needs to find that person who is their perfect puzzle piece. So who's the perfect puzzle piece for you, for any visionary that's going to help execute on your ideas, but also hold you accountable? So there's a visionary that I had, and I love him to death, and he's like 82 years old. And you let him go on vacation or you let him go for a long weekend, he'd come back with thousands and buckets and buckets and buckets of ideas. The integrator figured out he had to get that visionary to be his first stop. You must come directly to my office when you get back from vacation or long weekends. And then they would have a 2-hour session together, and all the ideas would come out. And that integrator would say, okay, that's really cool. We can do that the next month. That one, maybe in a year, it's going to take us some time. These three, they go in the garbage. And here's why they go in the garbage. So you need your perfect puzzle piece. We all do. We will be better visionaries. And I can say this because I am visionary by nature. It's who I am. I need my integrator. She's been with me for 15 years, Jill. And literally, she dots my I's, crosses my T's, makes me sure I have my ducks in a row. Don't forget anything, right? Because I need it. It makes me better.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you listening, super interested in more about the integrator, Kelly Knight, the EOS Worldwide's integrator, was on our show, I think a week or two ago. I can't remember when this, or maybe when this goes out, it'll be like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But anyway, if you want to listen to that, we get a little bit deeper into that role. Talk about like what typically happens to a business before they get that integrator seat right. Because you probably deal with like, what, let me ask you this, out of all your clients, what percentage would you say have the right integrator in the seat right now?
I would say 70%. This is a little off the cuff, but I would say 70% definitely have the right integrator. I probably have about 15-20% that are sitting in what we call the VI seat. The visionary integrator seat is where the visionary owner is also the integrator. And in some ways, the ones that I have, and I have worked with great VIs, great visionary integrators, because they are more structured, more methodical, and still have the vision. And so they're able to do both. But over time, they realize how much more they could be doing if they had that right integrator with them to help them get more done. And so about 20% of them are on this cusp of growth, because you do it because of budget, because of growth, things like that. But they're on the cusp of adding that integrator. And it's okay if you start out there. But if you are someone who, I love you all, some of you are crazy visionaries, which means you're all over the place. You need that person to help you come in and align things better. So I encourage you to please find that person that is your great puzzle piece.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you pointed out is so key. You know, we deal with this on the hiring side to help integrate or to help visionaries or CEOs find the right second in command, whether they run on EOS or not. But it's like, I'm always interested in how they have conversations with the visionary, to your point. It's like, you don't need to make them feel bad that they have ideas. It's like, yeah, acknowledge like, oh yeah, those are great ideas, but like, here's what here's how we're going to do it. And I think that conversation is so key, that makes the right integrators or most integrators good to with certain visionaries.
Yeah, so a couple points I'd make is one, EOS isn't about hierarchy, it's about function. Okay, so that's one. And there are times, many times over the years, that I have a visionary integrator that are partners. They're actually close to equal partners, right? So they're both partners in the business, but one is more naturally visionary and one's more naturally integrator. And having that clarity between the two of them works miracles in itself. This is the clarity of visionary, this is the clarity, it makes them better partners. And then where there's an integrator that's hired, right? Hired to be the integrator. And I don't care titles. It could be president, it could be COO, it doesn't matter, but they're hired. And all I say to my integrators is, if you make too many bad decisions, the visionary is just going to fire your ass. Can I say that out loud? I just did.
Oh yeah, you can.
So the point is, both for integrators looking for their next integrator spot or visionaries, make sure you're really going to bond well together and be on the same pace and road together.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's dive into culture and people. So you co-authored People, which did that come out about a year ago now?
No, a year ago, April.
April. So People, Dare to Build an Intentional Culture is the book. So if you want to go grab it, go grab a copy. It's on Amazon and probably other places you can find it. Why is culture so often treated as an afterthought instead of a strategic driver?
There's no thought into it in the beginning. It's back to that happy accident that I was talking about. It's like, I have this idea for this business and it's exciting and great, and I'm going to pull in the people that I think will be good at it to help me build it. And yet they're not purposeful. They're not intentional with what their values are. They're not intentional with their core focus. They're not intentional in their long range goal or their 3-year picture, because we teach 3-year picture. So they're just not intentional at all. And they might be happy for a while and healthy for a while, but then it shifts and changes. And the thing is businesses evolve and grow over time. Every time you add a person to your business, you're adding another layer of complexity. And so how do we simplify it to get the real results that we're looking for? And culture, if you can really think about what your values are, of what you want your business to be, and hiring to them. The whole point of right people, right seats is right people as your values. Do these people align with your values, the leadership team's values? And then are they clear on the seat of that they have And do they want to be in that seat? Do they get it? Do they passionately want it? And do they have the capacity to do it? And so culture is number one. And sometimes we just don't put enough real thought or work into what you want your culture to be.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I think you use a term, people typically use the term culture fit, which is positive. You do want to make sure they align to your culture. But I think to your point, especially when you're adding leaders, you're always adding, like you add somebody to your point, you're adding complexity. Are they a culture add? It's kind of a new question to kind of think about versus like, you're trying to fit this person because it's always going to change the culture. But talk about, when I think about culture, right, wrong, or indifferent, I've been talking about this for a long time, starting when we built Yscouts. We're really talking about soft skills and aligning people to culture and thinking about culture and it being about purpose and values and, those types of things. But what I kind of come to the conclusion of is I think there's the reality to your point of using your 4 box. Let's say you have an intentional culture, like you're in that box, so you're up into the right. But I think the reality is that I don't think culture is ever, you want a culture to always stay the same. I think it's always going to grow. So always thinking through what kind of culture do we have? So that's an intentional culture. But what stock do you put in? What culture do we want to aspire to be? Do you think that's an important question to ask? And how do you think about that from the context of like hiring or changing in that direction?
So being clear on where you want your business to go, how do you want to grow your business, right? So, I have a motto value of grow or die. So I really only want to work with companies that want to grow. So if you're that, it's going to evolve. Culture evolve. 20 people culture versus 200 people culture can be shift and be different. And some people say, I only want to work in a small business, and now 200 people is too large. Well, the reality is you can maintain a family-oriented culture or a loving, abundance-minded culture. You can maintain a lot of those core pieces of your culture, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of focus. And it's being clear with yourself and your team of people of how you want to keep that culture, even though you could be doubling in size. I've had teams that have literally hired 120 people in 1 year to double because that was a demand. But then if you do it too fast and you're not doing it intentionally, you're going to bring in people that will rock the boat of that culture. And so I'm not saying you can't move quick, but at the same time, you've got to be very, very conscious of how you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how do you coach leaders to balance right person, right seat with the reality of tough people decisions?
Yes. We have a couple of things come to mind. One, we have 3-strike rule. But before that, it's if someone is not matching your value and they do something once, okay. They do the similar thing again. First time you go, they'll shrug and they'll go, yeah, okay, I won't do that again. Well, then they do it again. And now you're calling them out on it and they wiggle. But the third time someone has done something that's not against the culture, they have a pattern. Now, are you going to be brave enough, courageous enough to call them out on it? Because that's the biggest problem. The biggest thing is we all think we'll let it slide, and it doesn't work. If you don't say something to someone in a very short period of time when they have an action, it won't work. If you try to talk to them about it a month later, and this is true about giving them good news, giving them something, hey, you did this great. People don't remember the bad of what they do or the good of what they do. So the more communicative you can be and the faster you do that, the better it helps your culture. I'm hoping that answers your question, Max.
Yeah. No, it does. What role does vulnerability and authenticity play in a truly intentional culture?
100% in my book. And you know how hard that is? Dang hard. Dang. Meaning, we humans, we were built for scarcity and fear. We were cavemen and women that ran from tigers and lions, right? So we're built for scarcity and fear. And so teaching ourselves to be full of abundance, full of love, and I don't mean rom-com love, I mean truly caring about people. And if you are a manager or any role that you're playing as a leader, if you don't really enjoy people, you should not have people reporting to you. Because if you don't care about people, you shouldn't be a leader or a manager managing people. And I know that's bold and I know that's direct, but it matters. And so that makes having tough conversations actually easier when you care about people. Caring about people, genuine care and concern doesn't mean you don't have a tough conversation. I need people to tell me when you said that, it hurt. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I won't do it again. Okay. Or if they keep doing it, they need to be called out on it.
What would you say is the biggest leadership trait that you personally like to see in leaders?
Coachability, willingness to hear, listen, willing to change. I had a leader, I took on this team probably a year and a half ago. Amazing person who's built amazing businesses and done great things. And he is so humble. He called me after the first 2 sessions. He goes, CJ, I feel like an idiot. I go, why? And he goes, because I should have known all these things before. You're teaching me things at the age of 57 that I should have known. I go, no, it's okay. You've been successful. You've done great things. We're just learning something new, and learning never ends. I mean, I'm going to be 104 and still learn something.
Yeah, 100%. What about, one thing I've admired about you amongst a lot of things, but how much you take care of yourself. And you and I share this same passion. And, actually one of your clients is super passionate about it as well, who's kind of in the business. But talk about your personal journey. Like, I guess I've never asked you, honestly, like, how long have you been this focus on Pilates and eating and all those things? Like, when did that start? Because ever since I've known you, you were kind of focused on it. But talk about how important that is. When did it start for you? And then I kind of want to talk about like the importance of it for everybody.
Sure, happy to. Where did it start? All right, so here's the thing. And you know this, Max, because I've shared it with my teams. I spent 8th grade till I was a senior in high school with bars on my back because I had scoliosis. So I had a Milwaukee back brace. So that does something to an 8th grade to senior on her self-esteem. And yet I've always been small, short. Then I went to college and put on 30 pounds. Got out of college and went, oh, this isn't good. So started working on it then. But the consistent habits that I have built started after I had my first child, for me. So after I had my first child, I had put on a lot of weight. And I didn't feel good. And I was exhausted and tired. And it was hard to keep up. And so that's when it started. That's when I started all the things. I've done kickboxing. You name it, I've tried it. I've done it. Push the tires in the parking lots. It's about me being my best for all of my teams. They deserve that from me. My teams deserve me to deserve that I'm on the top of my game, that I'm awake, I'm alert, I'm ready, I'm physically fit, I'm mentally fit. And so all of that for me is, yes, Pilates, strength training, doing challenging things, which you heard about Peru. I hiked 55 miles in 7 days, and it was the most physically challenging thing I've ever done in my life at the age of 63. But I did it. And it helps me and it helps my self-esteem. So there's my answer.
Yeah, no, I love it. When I first got into business, I learned myself. I remember there was a decision. I could either go to the gym or go back to the office. I didn't have kids, wasn't married. And I stayed committed to the gym. And then now, years later, I kind of look back and be like, if I wouldn't have done that, I don't know if I would even be here. It's like running a business and being successful. But for me, it started, for some reason, I was an athlete and then I got away from it and drank and smoked cigarettes and did all the things that we did growing up.
Do it. Yeah.
But when my ex-wife was pregnant with my son, who's 20, I just remember thinking, like, looking at her stomach, like, I felt like a fraud. Like I wasn't the person I was supposed to be. So that's when it hit me, is like, I got in good shape. So when he was born, he would see me for who I am. And so I've kind of just stuck with this since. He's 20. So it's been a little over 20 years. So it's been interesting, but I'm kind of at this point now. I used to feel a little intrusive, like when I would like ask people like, hey, what do you do? People that work for me in particular. And now I'm like, feel less like, I feel like it's part of our jobs as leaders. Where do you fall now? And like, when you think about like, if you're making a decision to work with somebody, hire somebody, like how much do you think like their habits and how they take care of themselves plays into it? And how much should people take stock in it?
I believe that if you want to be the best person you could be, you got to take care of yourself first. What's the old adage in the airplane? You got to put your own mask on first. And so I believe every leader should do that. And, everyone wants to say, well, I need to work 80 hours a week. I would need to do everything. And the business is running you. You are not running the business. So whatever works for you. I mean, I get up at 4:30 and go to 5 a.m. Pilates. Do I love getting up at 4:30? Actually, no. Do I love how I feel when I leave Pilates? I do. Am I a better leader for it? Yes, I believe so, because I have more clarity. And so when I'm working with teams, so first of all, at this stage of the game, and this is just me, but it's important to me, is I literally ask God, whatever teams you think that I can help the best, that I can serve the best, that will understand that I just want them to be their best, those are the teams I want. If you don't want to be coachable and you don't want to change or you don't want to improve, forget change, improve. You don't want me. And you probably don't even want EOS if you just want to just stay status quo. So it's a combination of for your business and for yourself. You will be a much better visionary, integrator, leader if you focus on you and helping you to be the best that you can be.
Very, very well said. I would agree with every last word of it, actually. When it comes to leaders, in the last 10 years, like leaders have evolved. Where do you see it heading? Like, given all the different things that you see, I know this is a very broad question, and this would be something I just ask if we're having a cup of coffee, but where do you see leadership evolving in the last 10 years and moving forward?
So how it's evolved in the last 10 years kind of aligns with the growth of EOS. If you really think about it, I mean, you can go back hundreds of years and people have recruited or hired or brought on coaches to help them, right? And so I have found that over the last 10 years, people are looking for something. That's why EOS is growing and will continue to grow because it's timeless. EOS itself is timeless. So I find, and again, I live in an entrepreneurial world, right? I don't live in a corporate setting world of teams. Although I will tell you that I have many teams and companies that are very large outside of the EOS worldwide target market. So I have teams that have 5,000 employees, that have 500 employees. And the number one thing that's evolved is they want to own everything they're doing and be entrepreneurial with it and help all the people around them. So the more we can keep doing that, entrepreneurship is what keeps our world going and going well. And it comes and goes and it shifts, but it's us entrepreneurs that will help it grow. And I don't think that's a shift. I just think it's getting bigger and better.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you say to leaders who feel like their business is running them instead of the other way around?
People that feel like their business is running them think it's all on them and their shoulders, and they are not opening themselves up vulnerably enough to ask for help. And so because they feel it's all on them and they have to do it and they're the best person to do it. I had a really delightful conversation with a woman this morning, and she says there was a lot of I built this and I get accused of being a micromanager. And it's because she feels like everything's on her shoulders and she has to get into every detail. And I said, well, if you had the right person next to you that was helping you find the details, make sure the details were going down, would you let go? Yeah. I said, then let's find that person for you, right? I mean, we're human. We're not superheroes. We like to think we are. But at the end of the day, we do better together than we do alone.
Yeah. That reminds me of the interview question, which I think is probably close to unfair, where you ask, what's the biggest wrongful assumption that people have about you? And like, they'll go on to tell you if like their exact flaw of like everybody like views them a certain way, which is usually the reality of like what's going on. What's one practice or mind shift that's had a big impact on your sense of freedom and purpose? And talk about, so before you get in, this will help frame it, I think, for you, because I think you do such a beautiful job with this. Talk about your purpose as an implementer, how you framed it up.
My personal core focus is I love to ignite leaders, managers, owners to do the thing you keep putting off. And my superpower, as I call it, is motivation, or i.e. kicking people in the ass. And yep, I say it just like that. So the biggest thing I had to learn over all these years, thanks to Gino Wickman, was to let my freak flag fly. That's one of his sayings. And I always had this feeling that I was worried about what people thought about me. If I say this or do this, what are they going to think about me? I love you all out there, but I don't care anymore. I am here to serve. I'm here to do great work. And someone can tell me right to my face, I didn't like that. I don't think that was right. I think you said that wrong. I'm all in. All in. But being able to be vulnerable enough to even hear it is something I've had to work on really hard. And I'm there, but I'll always be growing. Someone's always going to tell me I said something or did something that wasn't quite right, but that's okay.
I love that. Imagine you're talking to, which you probably are with the listeners. Imagine you're talking to a room of CEOs. What's the one thing you'd want them to take away from your work?
From my work?
Yeah, as an implementer.
Be brave, be courageous, have the tough conversations. Dare to build that intentional culture. I'm daring you. Build that intentional culture. I didn't say it was going to be easy, but if you follow some simple tools and you use your voice, say what you think, be caring, genuinely care, you can make a difference. To one person, to a team, to your whole business, to the world that you're serving with whatever your business is, you can make a difference. But you got to open yourself up and say the things.
I love it. I love it. All right. I'm going to move into like some more rapid fire questions. It's like fun and easy. Let your freak flag fly. Like okay, it's all good. What's one business book you think is overrated? And if you can't think of an overrated book, just give me your best, like your favorite business book. If you can't think of one overrated, that's kind of putting you on the spot. She did not know these questions ahead of time, but a business book that you think is overrated, or just give me your favorite business book.
I could get in trouble if I say the one that popped in my head, but
no, let's hear it.
Let Them. I love Mel Robbins stuff here and there. I do. So if she hears this, I'm sorry. But part of it for me is, and she is pushing people to be courageous and change the things and let them. I get that. So that's good. It feels a little overrated to me when I read it, but I was like, okay, cool. And to be honest, when I read Traction, I know this sounds crazy because this is what I do now, but I read the book, I did the webinar, an hour, and I went, that's what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And here I am 16 years later. Wow. And I know that sounds a little bit like I'm promoting Traction, and I am, but at the same time, it did change me. And then there is another good book out there. It's going through a lot of the Christian communities more, I think. It's called Unoffendable. Similar feel to Let Them, but it's got a little different twist to it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Mel Robbins, but I think that there's some holes in that Let Them. I mean, listen, there's cities that have let people do whatever they want. Those cities aren't doing very well anymore. I'm not trying to make it political, but there's some point where you got to like step up and like, if you have the means to help somebody, you help them, you know? And so I get it. I think I get where you're coming from. Is culture more important than strategy? Yes or no?
Yes. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Literally.
Yeah. What's a common leadership mantra you don't agree with?
Common leadership mantra I don't agree with. I'm stuck.
All right, we'll skip that one if we think of it.
You can give me ideas and I can tell you, but hey.
Yeah, I don't know. But there's some that
question, you know.
Yeah, no, I know. The question's for you. It's not for me.
I know. I'm like, what's the mantra? I mean, the hardest thing that I hear, and I know it's fact in a lot of ways, but it is this mantra of it's the economy. And I get it to a certain degree, but you also, if you look across many different industries, there is oftentimes a leading horse, even when the economy's down.
Yeah, my past is starting businesses in the down market. The first one I did, I wouldn't say I did it intentionally. I was just trying to be an entrepreneur. Certainly I saw the benefit of being in a down market. And then when it turns, like you're in way better position. I think a mantra that comes to mind with me, I don't know if it's necessarily a mantra, but is this idea that social media and media gives about entrepreneurship being easy and for anyone. You know, it drives me crazy because I think the reality is like real entrepreneurs that have done all the hard work, you ask them what they've sacrificed in order to get to where they're at, and they tell you and they're honest. It's like you sacrifice a lot. And I don't think many people know that. They just see like fancy stuff and it's, you know, and I think it's sold to young people in this day and age right now that they can go out and be an entrepreneur. When I think the reality is like you go talk to any entrepreneur, they've actually went to work for somebody, learned stuff, did stuff. So that's what drives me crazy is I see young kids at, early 20s and like I love their hustle of like starting new stuff, but I don't think they even are close to realizing that, hey, go take advantage of working for somebody that's cut their teeth and learn.
Yeah, I have a couple of family-held businesses, and one of them in particular, their rule is, and they're literally in fourth generation now. And so it's like you have to go work for someone else for 2 years, and then you can come back to our business. And so that's a good one. And the other one that I would tell you that's more recent is AI is going to replace humans. AI is great and it's going to do great things for us. And I use it and we all use it in many different ways. And it's going to help us be efficient and all those things. It's not taking over humans, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think so either. The thing that I've been thinking about with AI, because I use it a lot, is I'm sure everybody does, is it's how you use it. Meaning, there's studies that I'm sure people have listened to. I think Stephen Bartlett just had his episode, the last episode. It's not peer-reviewed statistics, but people that just use AI and they're not doing strategic thinking and their recall's bad. And like they're taking shortcuts. And I think it gets me back to, I think, where you're headed this is where we're kind of going all the way back in a full circle. We're doing things the old fashioned way, and doing the work actually is going to benefit you in the long run. And we always knew that, but now we needed AI to teach us this lesson about how to do the hard work or not to do the hard work. Yeah. I think it's an interesting debate. If you could ban one buzzword from the business world, what would it be?
Ban one
buzzword.
The word that popped in my head that I hear, and it goes in both directions, is complacency. A lot of my teams talk about complacency a lot. And what does that mean, right? What does complacency mean? And it's not good. So I don't know. That's just a word that popped in my head.
Yeah, you're either growing or dying. It goes back to kind of your mantra. And I would 100% agree. I don't think there's who wants to go work for somebody that isn't growing in so many ways? I mean, maybe there's a person, but I don't know many people that are I just want to go help flatline a company and maybe sunset it at some point. It just doesn't, I don't think anybody thinks that.
And then the whole rating of C player, B player, A player, right? What does that mean? What's the definition of it?
Yeah.
I'd be pushing a lot. I push a lot on levers like that. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I'd say one of the things that kind of drives me crazy, just the term top grading to me, I don't really like. I believe in that's a good book for some people, but it's just, there's an icky part of it. There's other ways to focus your time than thinking about top grading. But so what's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self? You've obviously gotten a lot more confident. You've learned a lot in the 1,008 sessions, or 1,882, or is that what the number is?
1,832. My younger self, I would have taught to be more confident sooner.
I love it.
To work on my own personal level of confidence sooner. I am someone who oftentimes, and I'm not really going to change this way, but I always take high road. So I'll take high road and let someone get away with something sometimes, even though it directly hurts me, and take high road. And now I say something.
I love it. EOS hot take. What's the most underrated tool leaders should pay more attention to?
Scorecard.
If you're doing what you're doing now, if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what would your dream job be?
My dream job would be having a block of stores.
Really?
I'd love to have a clothing boutique, a Pilates studio, a interior design studio, a cool wine cafe, a whole block of it with great people running each one.
I love it. I think it's possible. It's
in my 70s. I'm only 63.
And she is honestly and I wouldn't say this, but she is the most lively 63-year-old person I know for sure. I would never say that. And she reminds me of my mom.
Oh no, Matt.
No, I know, but my mom is so even keeled. And ever since I've met you, I've told you this, and I never want you to take his insult. In fact, it's probably the biggest
I love your mom. I already love her.
Yeah, biggest compliment ever. So those of you that are watching and know my mom, you can kind of see why. She's got a really even, cool, keeled self to, kind of pace to herself. Who's a leader that people idolize, but you think is misunderstood?
I could get in so much trouble if I said what I thought out loud.
I think you should say it. I mean, we're at the tail end of this podcast. For those listeners that have gotten to this point, let's reward them. Okay. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I agree with everything either. So hear me clearly when I say that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think the media does a lot of things to people that they don't even realize is happening. What's one word that best describes your leadership style?
I'm outrageous. There are moments of I live outrageously, and I mean that I give it all. Yeah,
I mean, and I knew this about you. And then when you told me you're going to to go hiking 56 miles in Peru, I thought you had lost your mind. And then I got to see you after it. So outrageous is actually really good. That makes a lot of sense. What about anything as we start finishing up here? First off, anybody that is interested in implementing EOS, the EOS worldwide, and they can go through kind of a process to find an implementer, what's the best way for them to take the first step to implement EOS?
Sure. Lauren Shaver is the one who runs the team, the recruiting team, if you will. And you just go to eosworldwide.com and they absolutely can help you and would love to. And if I can help, it's just cj.dubé, D-U-B-E, at eosworldwide.com. You can find me. I have a microsite. You can text me. I will help you find an implementer as well. I do it all the time. I do it all day long. And it's part of my joy is matchmaking. That part of me has never ended, never will.
I love it. I love it. And hopefully not too many people come rushing at you and want you to be their implementer.
That's
because
okay. I'll make time.
I know you will. All right. I'm going to give you the last word. We've talked about a lot, and I feel like there was so much more to talk about, which is normally how a great podcast goes. But what last word on just everything that we've talked about? We talked about EOS. We talked about implementation. We talked about integrators. We talked about healthy teams, culture. What's one last word that you kind of want to like leave our audience with?
What I want for everyone is to, as we call it, live your EOS life. Or I could say it another way, which is I just want everyone to live their best life. And, we hear it all the time, but it's doing what you love with people you love, making a huge difference in the world, getting paid appropriately, and having time, everyone, all of the crazy visionary entrepreneurs out there, having time for other passions and being good and healthy to yourself.
I love it. I love it. Well, you've been listening to the Built on Purpose podcast brought to you by Yscouts. You can listen to all of our past and future podcasts at yscouts.com. CJ, thanks so much for your time today. You were absolutely awesome.
Thanks.